Chapter 1. The Disappearance. It was 7:48 on the clock when Irina turned off the recorder and took off her headphones. The morning city was noisy outside the window, dusty trolley buses, coffee shops where people were already languishing with lack of sleep, and the sound of sirens somewhere in the distance. Everything is as usual. She was sitting in the editorial office of the city without a mask, an online magazine where she had been working for the third year. Yesterday, she submitted the material about fake charities. She needed to come up with something new today. Something alive. Ira, are you busy? The editor peered out from behind the door. There is a theme. It's hot. She looked up. The editor looked, as always, on the verge of being fired and having a stroke at the same time. The disappearance. Woman. The teacher. No one is looking, but our source says it's no accident. Name. Smirnova Elena Sergeyevna. University. Psychology. According to the neighbor, she was 2. He hesitated, curious. Irina nodded. It's not the most high-profile case, but something about it got me hooked. The woman has disappeared. No one is looking. In a sense, it's a classic. In the evening, Irina was already standing at the old 5-story building on Taganka. The house did not inspire confidence. Peeling walls, a stairwell smelling of dust and cats, and a neighbor from the first floor who knew about everyone's life except her own. Smirnov. Yes, it was a good one. Quiet. I always carried books. The woman grumbled, locking the door behind her. And then she disappeared a week ago, and that's it. Even the police didn't come. Relatives? She doesn't have anyone. She said she was born in an orphanage. Irina went up to the 3rd floor. The door to Elena's apartment was sealed, but someone had obviously torn off the seal. There were fresh tears on the tape. There's a thin note on the mat, as if it fell out of someone's hand. Some families are better off without a past. Irina's hand tightened. It's not just disappearing anymore. Chapter 2. Communication. The next morning, Irina returned to the editorial office with a slight but familiar itch in her head, the one that appeared every time the story began to seem personal. Well, the editor asked, without looking up from the phone. Do you have any leads? She has no family, no missing persons reports. The neighbors don't know anything, but Irina put a crumpled piece of paper on the table. I found this by the door. He ran his eyes over the phrase and frowned. Some families are better off without a past. He repeated it slowly. Is that a threat? Or a warning? Irina shrugged her shoulders. Anyway, she was obviously digging for something wrong. Listen, the editor leaned forward. We were waiting for a reason for a series of articles about psychological violence in families. Could this be it? Do you think she wrote about it? And why not? She taught psychology. They often dig deeper than they need to. At the university department where Elena Smirnova worked, Irina was treated with caution. She identified herself as a journalist, introduced herself officially. Everything is as it should be. And still, hesitations, closed glances, dry voices. Smirnova Elena Sergeyevna. Yes, she taught us the fundamentals of clinical practice. Calm, quiet. There was no conflict, the deputy dean said with cold politeness. It's strange, of course, that you're looking for her. We thought she was just on vacation. Did she say she was leaving? No. He hesitated. But, to be honest, we don't really go into it. Teachers often disappear and then come back. Irina left the university with an even stronger sense of anxiety. Her journalistic instincts told her that someone was lying. Or at least he keeps silent. Late at night, at home, she opened her laptop and started searching for mentions of the name, Elena Smirnova, on social networks, forums, blogs. Everything that happened was a dry, standard biography. But one detail made her freeze. A month before her disappearance, Elena posted a note on her personal blog titled, Birth Trauma. When a family's secret becomes a trap for posterity. There were no names. Just theory, examples, reflections. But one paragraph stood out. Sometimes the memory is hidden not in photographs, but in the body's reaction. Unconscious fear, longing, a sense of someone else's guilt. All this can be a signal. We don't know what our grandfathers did, but their grandchildren are paying for it. Irina reread these lines several times. For some reason, it seemed to her that it was written about herself. Chapter 3. The Old Photo Album. In the morning, Irina returned to the house on Taganka. The alarm on Smirnova's door was still off. Officially, it is not allowed. But journalists rarely wait for permission when it comes to the truth. She quickly inserted the hairpin into the lock and moved it. She knew a couple of old tricks from her days of practicing in the Criminal Chronicle. Click. It smelled of dust and something bitter inside, as if an old kettle had been boiling for too long. The apartment was modest. A writer's mess, books, pens, folders, printouts. There's a board with clippings on the wall, like a detective in a movie. Irina came closer. Headlines. The story of one family. A case of violence that was hushed up. Woman disappeared after trial. Mother of 2. Victim of domestic terror. Closed clinic. Officially, it's rehabilitation. Unofficially, it's a prison. And in the center is a photograph. It's old and worn. There was a young woman standing on it with a girl about 5 years old. The woman's face was partially covered with a stamp, but her eyes. Irina froze. She had seen those eyes. In the mirror. She recognized herself. As a child. The picture was slipping away, but the feelings remained. She knew it was her. So, the woman next to her is her mother? But my mother died in childbirth. Or not. There was a shelf next to the board. She yanked the drawer open. Empty. The second one contains pieces of paper, recipes, and old business cards. The third one contains an album, covered with cloth, with a torn ribbon. Irina carefully opened it. The first pages were ordinary, student years, groups, trips. Then something else happened. Photos without captions. People, faces, but almost all of them have their eyes cut out. Or the face is crossed out with a pen. Or circled in a bold red circle. A psychologist would say, suppression, fear, aggression. On one of the last pages is the same woman again. Only now she was standing alone. And on the back of the photo is an inscription in ballpoint pen. Don't trust those who call themselves loved ones. Irina sat down on the floor. My heart was pounding. There's a throbbing vortex in my head. She suddenly realized why her father had never talked about her mother. Why have any questions been answered by the deaf since childhood? You're little, you don't remember anything. He was lying. And this woman, Elena Smirnova, was probably the last one who knew the truth. Chapter 4. Lies. Irina's father greeted her as always, with restraint and politeness, as if they were not relatives, but people brought together by a common way of life. He was already in his bathrobe, with a cup of tea, as if he knew she was coming. Is something wrong? What is it? He asked, without taking his eyes off the TV screen. I need to talk, she said softly, walking into the room. About Mom. Pause. He didn't even pretend to misunderstand. I just turned off the sound. Why did you always say she was dead? She stared at him straight on, unblinking. I saw the picture. It's with her. I was a little girl. He didn't say anything. I just took a sip of tea. His hand was shaking slightly. You were little, he repeated. And it was better for you not to know. Really? Or was it better to forget? He got up slowly, went to the bookcase, and opened the lower section. There, among the old magazines, was a folder, dark blue, without a signature. He handed it to Irina. If you want to know, find out. Just don't say later that I didn't warn you. The folder contained dry documents, certificates, copies of letters, newspaper clippings, and a copy of the medical report. Mother's last name, Anna Orlova. Irina froze. She was always told that her mother was just a nurse. No last names, no history. There is also other information here. Anna worked in a private psychiatric clinic. Then she disappeared from the database. 6 months later, she was declared mentally unstable. Signatures, seals, diagnosis, paranoid delusions of persecution, tendency to flee, danger to the child. But something did not add up. One of the documents contained a letter from Elena Smirnova. It was written almost 20 years ago, with a pen, in checkered paper. Anna is not crazy. I saw how she cried when she was deprived of her parental rights. Her brother insisted on compulsory medical treatment. I suspect that he falsified the report. I'm afraid for her. And for the child. Irina reread the lines again. Brother. So Anna had a brother. Which means he's Irina's uncle. Who is this man? What is it? She asked, clutching the letter. The father fell silent. His face became as heavy as concrete. Yuri, he said, barely moving his lips. Yuri Orlov. Your uncle. And in fact, her executioner. And now he is one of the most respected people in the city. Later, at home, Irina opened a search engine. Yuri Orlov is a lawyer, an expert in family law, and a former judge. He often speaks in the media and is quoted in interviews. In one of the photos, he was standing in the courtroom, and next to him was the man whose face she had seen before. On Elena's wall, on a board with clippings, the mosaic began to take shape. Irina closed her laptop. Someone had faked her mother's fate. And if Yuri Orlov was a part of this, then Elena Smirnova's disappearance was not accidental. Chapter 5, Double Bottom. The city archive was located in the old building of a former factory, converted into an information and historical center. The entrance smelled of dust, wet wood, and some kind of Soviet fear. Irina introduced herself as a researcher from the media and pointed out the topic, clinical practice and family affairs in the 1990s and 2000s. It worked. 20 minutes later, she was leafing through old court decisions and hospital records. She was looking for everything about Yuri Orlov and Anna Orlova. And I found it. Case number 1438. Year, 2005. Subject, recognition of citizen Orlova AA as insane, deprivation of parental rights, placement in a closed institution. The main witness is Yuri Orlov, brother, lawyer, applicant. The report was signed by one doctor. By myself. Not by commission. Violation of the procedure. There was a dash in the column medical supervision before the conclusion. Another violation. 2 months after the trial, Anna was transferred to a private clinic funded by the same Yuri Orlov. There was no information about her discharge at all. It's like she just disappeared. Irina. She turned around abruptly. The man is short, about 40 years old, wearing a plaid shirt, glasses. He was holding a book in his hands. Excuse me, you're Irina Lavrova, right? Yes. And you? I worked with Elena Smirnova. She was my colleague. She taught with me at the same faculty. We have been corresponding for the last 6 months. We were both interested in the topic of manipulation in family courts. Irina looked at him with concern. Did you know what she was doing before she disappeared? I knew. She wrote about your mother's case. Irina froze. She said that the truth was too scary to publish it head-on. I wanted to do it through you. Through me. She thought if you started with her disappearance, you'd get to the bottom of it. You are less suspicious. You are a journalist, not a relative. He handed her a piece of paper. There's an address on it. The signature is EO. I do not know who it is. But Elena asked me to give it back if something happened to her. Irina came out of the archive under a gray sky. She felt something change. The world has become denser. The air is colder. Behind them, on the opposite side of the street, was a black car with tinted windows. The one she had already seen at Smirnova's house. Irina pretended not to notice. But my heart was beating faster. She knew that now they were tracking her, too. Chapter 6. The Mother. The address given on the paper led to a private boarding house outside the city. It was listed on the map as the Romashkovo Recreation Center, but it looked more like a forgotten recreation center from the 90s. Peeling walls, a pine smell, and a gatehouse where no one answered. Irina went through the gate and headed for the central building, a 2-story building with wooden shutters. It was empty inside, as quiet as a museum without visitors. She was about to turn around when she heard footsteps behind her. Irina. Woman. He was of medium height, with streaks of gray in his brown hair. He was wearing a plain gray sweatshirt. Her face was tired, as if life had burned everything out of her except the internal heat. Irina did not move. I'm sorry I'm Anna. His voice was shaky. I'm your mother. Silence. The world seemed to fall into cotton wool. That's impossible. Irina took a step back. They told me you were dead. I know. The woman nodded. It was part of your uncle's plan. He wanted to erase me, so that no one would believe me if I ever came back. Why? Because I knew the truth about our family. About what happened many years ago. About the case he hushed up. About the violence he was involved in. I wanted to open up. He beat me to it. Declared her crazy. Robbed you. Deprived of freedom. Almost a lifetime. Why have you been silent for so many years? Anna lowered her eyes. I tried. You've been isolated. I was kept under control. They threatened. Then they stole all the papers. Only Elena remained. She was my student. She believed. Irina could hardly hold back her tears. Emotions were hitting my chest like hammers. Are you sure you're her? That this is not another manipulation? Anna took out a small box. I opened it. Inside is an old butterfly hairpin, full of cracks. You dropped it when you were 3 years old, when you were sleeping on my lap. You were crying because you thought it had crashed. And I told you that it has become like a fragile secret. You need to protect it. Irina touched the hairpin. She remembered. Not exactly an image, but the feeling. Safety. Heat. The truth. And suddenly everything happened. We have to act, Irina said. Your brother. He is still in power. He's involved in Elena's disappearance. I'm sure. Anna pursed her lips. He's involved in much worse. Chapter 7. Orlov. Yuri Orlov's office was in a glass tower in the center of Moscow, on the top floor, where the air smelled of expensive coffee and scrubbed controls. The secretary asked for the name, but Irina did not answer. It just passed. She knew that being honest was a weakness now. Orlov waited, behind a wide glass table, with a stony face. I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time, he said, as if it were a family dinner. It's a pity that earlier you chose to steal my mother and erase her from your life. He chuckled, not maliciously, but rather like a person who is bored by other people's illusions. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. But I know the truth. You forged the reports, you paid the doctors. Robbed her of her child. Me. Then he locked her in a private clinic, where she was supposed to disappear. And he got up and walked around the table. Do you think it can be proved? Documents? Words? You have no witnesses, Irina. There is no evidence that won't fall apart in court. But I have connections. Reputation. Decades of status. Irina took out a dictaphone. She pressed the play button. A woman's voice sounded in the room. He paid. He faked the diagnosis. Elena was afraid. I was afraid. He said, if you don't shut up, you'll be gone. This is the voice of Elena Smirnova. 3 days before the disappearance. Did you do to her what you did to my mother? A momentary shadow passed over Orlov's face. The first crack. No one's going to believe you, he said, no longer sure. They'll believe you. Because you're not alone. You're part of the system. And if you fall, you'll pull others down with you. They won't want to burn down with you. He paused. His gaze became sharp and prickly. You're playing with fire, Irina. In this game, it's not the brave who survive, but the quiet ones. You know too much. That's why I'm not silent anymore. She turned around and left. He didn't try to stop her. He didn't know how. The editor was waiting for her in the editorial office. We've checked everything. Audio, documents. This is serious. If we release this, there will be a scandal. Political, legal, human. Then it's time. He nodded. You'll be followed. Intimidate. Trying to cross it out. We've already tried, Irina said. But they didn't succeed. The next day, the headline on the website read, The Truth About Silence. How a respected lawyer deprived women of their freedom, and those who spoke about it out loud disappeared. Below it is the story of Elena, Anna, documents, audio, photo, last name, Orlov, rank, former judge, and the author's signature, Irina Lavrova. Chapter 8, The Wave. The news blew up the internet and the media. In the editorial office, the phone wouldn't stop ringing, and the email was filled with letters of support and threats. Did you hear that, Irina? The editor lowered his voice. You have a problem. This morning, Your number is already in the database of several respected people. Do they think I'm going to give up? Irina looked at him with a smirk. No way. Late in the evening, they were already waiting for her at the exit of the house. A black car pulled up too close. The door swung open, and a man in a dark suit stepped forward. We advise you to think about the consequences, he said calmly, not smiling. This is a warning. My articles are not toys, Irina replied, not backing down. The man nodded and left. There is a new person in the editorial office, a young detective Anton. I've been following Smirnova's case since before she disappeared, he confessed. If you want, I can help. Irina met his gaze, and for the first time she felt that she was not alone. A few days later, Anton sent her an encrypted message. I found a trail. There is a camera in a private clinic showing a woman who looks very much like Elena. The video was taken a month ago. Are you serious? Irina whispered. Seriously. And that changes everything. Chapter 9. The Shadow of the Past. Anton and Irina met in an abandoned cafe near the edge of the city. He brought a flash drive with a video from the clinic. The room was small, with the dim light of a surveillance camera. The recording shows a woman in a gray robe walking calmly down the corridor, her gaze fixed on nothing. Is that her? Irina asked, narrowing her eyes. 100%. Her face, her walk. Anton turned on slow motion. And that scar on my wrist. You were talking about him. Irina nodded. The scar she saw in her dreams when she was a child always seemed like a strange sign. Why is she there? What is it? She asked, her voice trembling. The clinic operates as a closed facility, Anton explained. But she has a connection with your uncle. He's still controlling her. So she's a hostage? But there is one loophole. An employee who gives her books and letters. Someone from inside is trying to help. While they were discussing the plan, there was a knock on the door of the cafe. A middle-aged woman with a tired but determined face came in. My name is Marina, she said. I work at that clinic. And I can help free Elena. Irina felt her heart beat faster. Do you promise? What is it? She asked. I promise. But we need to act quickly. Yuri Orlov is strengthening security. The night was dark and starless when Irina and Marina drove to the clinic. There, among the cold walls and steel doors, the real struggle for truth and freedom began. Chapter 10. Exposure. The night shrouded the clinic in darkness. Irina, Marina, and Anton quietly made their way through the service entrance using the key Marina gave them. My heart was pounding in my temples, but my steps were firm. Freedom was near. They found Elena at the back of the building, behind a heavy metal door. She looked frail, but there was a fire in her eyes, the fire of survival. Irina, she whispered when she heard the voice. Yes, it's me. We've come for you. Elena told the whole truth. How Yuri Orlov falsified cases, eliminated those who interfered with him, and maintained a network of silence and fear. How Anna, her sister, fought, but was broken. How she herself tried to fight, but was trapped. Irina realized that this is more than a family drama. It's corruption, impunity, and the sacrifice of the innocent. The next day, the whole country found out the truth. Documents, audio, video, and live evidence left no chance for Orlov. He was arrested. Investigations have begun. Irina and Anna stood on the riverbank, watching the dawn light up the city. Thank you for not giving up, the mother said. Thank you for coming back, Irina replied. Family secrets had been revealed, but most importantly, they now had truth and hope.